what's up?
Baby, let's go.
Radio Cards, the best radio station of the campus. Radio Cards. Radio Cards.
It's cards only.
Hello again. This is Augustin LaCroix, aka the Hermit, here to take you on a little travel into English literature. Now, when you're a hermit and you live alone because you detest the false nature of other individuals, people assume that you're always a little depressed and you like to meddle with the morose. And that's quite true in my experience. And today I'd like to share with you what is in my opinion one of the saddest poems that I have come across. This comes from the collection Death of a Naturalist by Seamus Heaney. And here Seamus Heaney writes a rather short poem detailing his experience as he came home from school after his baby brother had died. The poem is entitled Midterm Break. I sat all morning in the college sick bay, counting bells nailing classes to a close. At 2 o'clock our neighbors drove me home. In the porch, I met my father crying. He'd always taken funerals in his stride, and Big Jim Evans saying it was a hard blow. The baby cooed and laughed and rocked the pram when I came in, and I was so embarrassed by old men standing up to shake my hand and tell me they were sorry for my trouble. Whispers informed strangers I was the eldest. Away at school, as my mother held my hand in hers and coughed out angry, tearless sighs. At 10 o'clock, the ambulance arrived with a corpse, staunched and bandaged by the nurses. The next morning, I went up into the room. Snowdrops and candles soothed the bedside. I saw him for the first time in 6 weeks. Paler now, wearing a poppy bruise on his left temple. He lay in the 4-foot box, as in his cot. No gaudy scars. The bumper knocked him clear. A 4-foot box, a foot for every year. Now, so that you do not have to only discover this reading through the absolute butchering that my unappropriate voice gave the poem, I highly invite you to discover the poem written for yourself. I repeat that the term is Midterm Break in Death of a Naturalist by Seamus Heaney. But in order not to leave you on too depressed a note, because one should always strive to find emotional balance, I will read to you another poem from the collection later entitled St. Francis and the Birds. When Francis preached love to the birds, they listened, fluttered, throttled up into the blue like a flock of words. Released for fun from his holy lips, then wheeled back word about his head, pirouetted on his brother's capes, danced on the wing, for sheer joy played and sang like images took flight, which was the best poem Francis made, his argument true, his tone light. I hope that you enjoyed this reading of these two poems by Seamus Heaney. It is my only regret that a human voice does not contain as much beauty as written words, which is why I choose to listen to minimum amount of human voice, which is why I live absolutely alone and speak to myself only within my own head. On that note, I wish you a happy continuation, and I hope that you will be able to hear me next time so that we may share in more joyous and fun activities. Cheerio. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking to you here is Augustin LaCroix, aka the Hermit. Now, when you are a hermit, a lot of people assume that you have a very monotonous existence with absolutely no laughter or joy at all because you live alone, isolated in the middle of a forest. They have a point. However, to today's modern technology, it's easy to find entertainment through the wonderful contents of what I call the internet. And I myself, being a light soul despite many misconceptions, like to amuse myself with funny little jokes. Therefore, today we find ourselves on thoughtcatalog.com with apparently some of the 50 best jokes on the internet. Now, I would like you to accompany me on this journey to see if we can manage to not laugh out loud while reading these jokes, even though the article clearly states that it is impossible not to laugh out loud. Therefore, I have compiled their 15 best jokes, and let's go through them together. What did the traffic light say to the car? Don't look, I'm about to change. See, that is absolutely hilarious, because lights change, and so do people, and people are naked when they change. Absolutely hilarious. I'm going to stop explaining them to make this situation less painful and excruciating. However, just know that I am thoroughly amused. Why was the little strawberry crying? His mom was in a jam. Right, moving on. Number 3, what do you call a nosy pepper? Jalapeno business. Right, I assume that's funny, but I have no idea what jalapeno means, mostly because I only eat, raw meat from the rabbits I catch outside my home. So that was perhaps out of my league. How do you befriend a squirrel? Just act like a nut. I feel it would be funnier if they said like nuts. But then again, what do I know? I have no sense of humor. 6. Have you heard about the corduroy pillow? No? Really? It's making headlines. Now see, that is an example of fine humor because pillows are meant for heads and therefore make headlines, just like news. This really is, top tier, A-level, 20 out of 20 humor. Now, what did one hat say to the other? You go ahead. No, sorry. You stay here. I can't even read these jokes properly. My thorough apologies. Number 12. What do you call a pony with a cough? A little horse. Of course, horse spelled H-O-A-R-E-S-E. Which means to something that sounds rush or harsh and typically as a result of a sore throat or shouting. I just made this way too precise. 14. What do you call a man with no arms or legs waiting in a pool? Bob. Now, the joke in itself isn't funny, but I've always found the name Bob to be absolutely hilarious, so this does put a smile on my face. How does a duck buy lipstick? She just puts it on her bill. I do not understand. I'm assuming that bill also has a connotation linked to ducks. So in order for this not to be completely useless, let's Google duck bill and see exactly what we're talking about. An animal with jaws resembling a duck's bill and oh, I see. So actually the beak of a duck is called a bill because of its shape. Right. You're welcome. What do you do when you see a spaceman? Park your car, man. Oh, because space, comma, man. That's a little play on punctuation, and as always, thoroughly amusing. Now, we only have a minute left, and so far, this has been absolutely hilarious, but not quite the laugh out loud level that we were expecting, so let's try by the end. Why do skeletons never go to parties? They're just like me, I never go to parties. Because they have no body to go with. This is very funny because skeletons don't have bodies, and I actually don't have anybody to go with, and I live my life as a miserable loner. So why doesn't anyone want to shave a crazy sheep? Because it's a bad idea. See, I actually even put the sound of a sheep to make it funnier. It's actually written B-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-D, idea, which makes it absolutely hilarious to read. Okay, well, I'm glad that you could spend these 5 minutes with me enjoying the absolute best of the internet, what the internet has to offer, beg your pardon. And I will see you again very soon. Meanwhile, stay inside, stay alone, and remember, kids, humanity is a cancer. This is the Hermit, once again inviting you to join me in a moment of culture and love for one of the most emblematic figures in the English language, William Shakespeare. In today's passage, we'll be looking at the opening soliloquy from King Richard III. Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this son of York, and all the clouds that lowered upon our home in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Now are our brows bound with victorious wreaths, our bruised arms hung up for monuments, our stern alarmists changed to merry meetings, our dreadful marches to delightful measures. Grim-visaged war hath smoothed his wrinkled front, and now, instead of mounting barbed steeds to fright the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly in the lady's chamber to the lascivious pleasing of a lute. But I, that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking-glass, I that am rudely stamped and want love's majesty to strut before a wanton ambling nymph, I that am curtailed to this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed, unfinished, sent before my time, into this breathing world scarce half made up, and that so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I hold by them? Why, I, in this weak piping time of peace, have no delight to pass away the time, unless to see my shadow in the sun, and descant on my own deformity. And, therefore, since I cannot prove a lover, to entertain these fair well-spoken days, I am determined to prove a villain, and hate the idle pleasures of these days. Plots have I lain, inductions dangerous, by drunken prophecies, libels, and dreams, to set my brother Clarence and the king in deadly hate, the one against the other. And if King Edward be as true and just as I am subtle, false, and treacherous, this day should Clarence closely be mewed up about a prophecy which says the G of Edward's heirs the murderer shall be. Dive thus down to my soul, for here Clarence comes. Hello everyone, this is the Hermit. I'm glad you could join me today, as I'd like to read you one of my favorite passages from one of my favorite plays, Henry V by William Shakespeare. This speech, located in the first scene of Act 4, shows King Henry before the great battle of Agincourt, lamenting to God on how his functions as king keep him from being a normal man and give him so many responsibilities in the face of death and tragedy. Upon the king, let us our lives, our souls, our debts, our careful wives, our children, and our sins lay on the king. We must bear all. O hard condition, twin born with greatness, subject to the breath of every fool, whose sense no more can feel but his own wringing. What infinite hard seas must kings neglect that private men enjoy? And what have kings that privates have not too, save ceremony, save general ceremony? And what art thou, thou idle ceremony? What kind of God art thou, that sufferest more of mortal griefs than do thy worshippers? What are thy rents? What are thy coming-ins? O ceremony, show me but thy worth. What is thy soul of adoration? Art thou aught else but a place, degree, or form, creating awe and fear in other men, wherein thou art less happy being feared than they in fearing? What drink'st thou oft, instead of homage sweet, but poisoned flattery, Oh, be sick, great greatness, and bid thy ceremony give thee cure. Think'st thou the fiery fever will go out with titles blown from adulation? Will it give place to flexure and low bending? Canst thou, when thou command'st the beggar's knee, command the health of it? No, thou proud dream, that play'st so subtly with a king's repose. I am a king that find thee, and I know 'tis not the balm, the spectre, and the ball, the sword, the mace, the crown imperial, the intertissued robe of gold and pearl, the farced title running for the king, the throne he sits on, nor the tide of pomp that beats upon the high shores of this world. No, not all these thrice gorgeous ceremony. Not all these laid in bed majestical can sleep so soundly as the wretched slave who, with a body filled and vacant mind, gets him to rest, crammed with distressful bread, never sees horrid night, the child of hell, but like a lackey from the rise to set, sweats in the eye of Phoebus, and all night sleeps in Elysium. Next day after dawn doth rise and help Hyperion to his horse, and follows the ever-running year with profitable labor to his grave. And but for ceremony such a wretch, winding up days with toil and nights with sleep, had the forearm and vantage of a king. The slave, a member of the country's peace, enjoys it, but in gross brain little wots what watch the king keeps to maintain the peace, whose hours the peasant best advantages. In hopes that you enjoyed that, I'll now be reading from the third scene of the fourth act of Henry V. In this speech, which is by far, in my estimation, one of the most famous of the English language, King Henry V answers his cousin Westmoreland, who wishes right before the Battle of Agincourt that there would be more English soldiers here with them. And this is the king's response. What's he that wishes so? My cousin Westmoreland. No, my fair cousin, if we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss. And if to live, the fewer men, the greater share of honour. God's will, I pray, thee wish not one man more. By Jove, I am not covetous for gold, nor care I who doth feed upon my cost. It earns me not if men my garments wear, such outward things dwell not in my desires. But if it be a sin to covet honour, I am the most offending soul alive. No, faith, my coz, wish not a man from England. God's peace, I would not lose so great an honour as one man more, methinks, would share from me, for the best hope I have. No, do not wish one more, rather proclaim it, Westmoreland, through my host, that which he hath no stomach to this fight, let him depart. His passport shall be made, and crowns for convoys put into his purse. He would not die in that man's company that fears his fellowship to die with us. This day is called the Feast of Crispian. He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand a tiptoe when this day is named, and rouse him at the aim of Crispian. He that shall see this day and live old age, with yearly on the vigil feast of his neighbours, and say, tomorrow is St. Crispian. Then will he strip his sleeves and show his scars, and say, these wounds I had on St. Crispin's day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot, but he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in his mouth as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talberg, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. This story shall a good man teach his son, and Crispian shall ne'er go by from this day till the ending of the world. But we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen of England, now abed, shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whiles any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's Day. Hello, this is the Hermit. I'm glad you could once again join me for a switch of langue, en effet. Je vais aujourd'hui, dans un essai pour combattre l'ennui, tenter de parler français. C'est inhabituel pour moi, mais cela m'aide à développer plusieurs personnalités que je n'aurais pas sinon l'opportunité d'explorer. Aujourd'hui, nous allons faire une lecture de la tirade non originale, je vous l'accorde, mais cependant une de mes favorites, la tirade du nez du Cyrano de Bergerac, écrit par Edmond Rostand. Souhaitons-nous bonne chance. Ah, non, c'est un peu court, jeune homme. On pouvait dire « Oh Dieu !» Bien des choses en somme. En variant le ton, par exemple, tenez, agressif. Moi, monsieur, si j'avais un tel nez, il faudrait sur le champ que je me l'amputasse. Amical. Mais il doit tremper dans votre tasse. Pour boire, faites-vous fabriquer un nappe. Descriptif. C'est un roc, c'est un pic, c'est un cap. Que dis-je, c'est un cap. C'est une péninsule. Curieux. De quoi sert cette oblongue capsule? D'écritoire, monsieur, ou de boîte à ciseaux? Gracieux. Aimez-vous à ce point les oiseaux que paternellement vous vous préoccupâtes de tendre ce perchoir à leurs petites pattes? Truculent. Ça, monsieur, lorsque vous pétunez, la vapeur du tabac vous sortait-le du nez, sans qu'un voisin ne crie au feu de cheminée? Prévenant. Gardez-vous, votre tête entraînée par ce poids, de tomber en avant sur le sol. Tendre. Faites-lui faire un petit parasol, de peur que sa couleur au soleil ne se fane. Pendant. L'animal, seul, monsieur, qu'Aristophane appelait hippocampe éléphantocamélos, tout avoir sur le front dents de chair sur ton dos. Cavalier. Quoi? L'ami? Ce croc est-il à la mode? Pour pendre son chapeau, c'est vraiment très commode. Emphatique. Aucun vent ne peut, n'est magistral, t'enrhumer tout entier, excepté le Mistral. Dramatique. C'est la mer rouge quand il saigne. Admiratif. Pour un parfumeur, quelle enseigne! Lyrique. Est-ce une conque, êtes-vous un triton? Naïf. Ce monument, quand le visite-t-on? Respectueux. Souffrez, monsieur, qu'on vous salue. C'est là ce qu'ils appellent avoir un pignon sur rue. Campagnard. Regardez à ce tiennet, néné. C'est qu'il n'y avait géant ou bien qu'il melon est? Militaire. Pointez contre cavalerie! Pratique. Voulez-vous le mettre en loterie? Assurément, monsieur, ce sera le gros lot. Enfin, parodie en Pyrame en un sanglot. Le voilà donc, ce nez qui des traits de son maître a détruit l'harmonie. Il en rougit, le traître. Voilà ce qu'à peu près, mon cher, vous m'auriez dit, si vous aviez un peu de lettres et d'esprit. Mais d'esprit, oh, le plus lamentable des êtres. Vous n'en eûtes jamais un atome. Et de lettres, vous n'avez que les trois qui forment le mot sot. Eussiez-vous eu d'ailleurs l'invention qu'il faut pour pouvoir là, devant ces nobles galeries, me servir toutes ces folles plaisanteries? Que vous n'en eussiez pas articulé le quart de la moitié du commencement, d'une, car je me les sers moi-même avec assez de verve, mais je ne permets pas qu'un autre me les serve.